mission of how I started podcasting and started Special Chronicles is giving respect and voice to those of us with special needs. I became an athlete leader of Special Olympics Illinois, and when I recorded the audio of the speeches that I was given and putting those up as podcasts, I soon received messages of encouragement, and I learned that it was a powerful platform and really helping to make a difference in people's lives. 12 years ago, I didn't expect that anybody would want to even listen to me. We have over 42,316 listeners per month. It's a humbling experience. I'm really grateful to make a difference in other people's lives. Coming up this week on the Special Chronicles Show, episode 446, we're on the road to Special Olympics 2022 USA Games with returning guest Brent Kampert, but this time calling in from Special Olympics Missouri, joining us in conversation about the 2022 USA Games Athlete Leadership and Inclusion with Team Missouri, coming up this week on SpecialChronicles.com.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
Podcasting since 2008. This is a show where we're broadcasting disability stories from an insider's perspective, and we are giving a voice to people with special needs. This is your weekly guide to find and joy, acceptance, and inclusion.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Show. My name is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and the Southern Tribal International Global Messenger of Special Olympics. So excited to be back on the program this week as we continue our 2022 USA Games series. And joining us this week is another returning guest. But before I bring that, a few housekeeping things. First, the Special Chronicles Show is presented by the ComEd Energy Force Program. Learn more about our partner at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And if you want to donate and join our supporters so we can continue podcasting, specialchronicles.com/give is where you can donate, and specialchronicles.com for links to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, going to all of our podcasts. And now, please put your virtual hands together as we welcome returning guest back to the Special Chronicles podcast, Brent. Welcome back, Brent.
Hey guys, my name is Brent Kampert, and I've had a developmental disability my whole life.
Awesome.
And
We'll get into a little bit more, Brent, but I know it's been quite a long time since we had you. I think the last time you were on the show was leading up to the 2014 USA Games in Princeton, New Jersey back in 2014. So it's been quite a long time since we had you back on, but I'm glad we're able to get connected again on the podcast.
Great, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get right to it since we don't have a lot of time. But for any new listeners, because I'm sure since the last time you were on in 2014, we've had a lot of new listeners to the pod. I think that's what the young kids say, pod. So we introduce yourself, tell us the disability you're diagnosed with, connection to a Special Olympics community. And
yeah. So, I mean, I've been doing Special Olympics for 23 years. And, I mean, in Missouri, they do things a lot differently than in Illinois for USA Games selections. In Missouri, they actually do a selection camp. And it's
awesome.
Really,
so first, let's maybe kind of backtrack a little bit and tell us what disability you're diagnosed with. And
yeah, I've been developmentally disabled my whole life. It's more like a learning disability. Plus, it had other issues, but you learn from it, you get through it, and it helps you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's now get into just a little bit about your Special Olympics backstory. Tell us a little bit about your early years growing up with a disability and some of the challenges and joys and accomplishments because of your disability. Kind of
Well,
growing up.
when I was 3 or 4, I couldn't walk or talk normally, and doctors didn't think I could make it all the way through. My parents, Pat and Jan, and my sister, April, helped me come a long way. And my sister's now been married since 2008, so Joe also supports me as well. And, you know, throughout life, it was really hard because I always, when at 3 or 4 years old, you normally think, well, you can just walk up and down stairs normally. At that age, I kept doing stair sits. So I would go up and down the stairs doing stair sits because my hamstrings were so tight.
Yeah.
And because of my family, I've been able to fight through it. And they got me to the point where I could talk more. I mean, I talk right now.
Yeah.
And now people when people even notice that I wouldn't be able to walk because I run track and field.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of us, like myself and you and so many of our other athletes, that a lot of us have in common from growing up. We've had a lot of, in addition to, I was going to say, not going to say like more, yeah, I guess mental or intellectual challenges, but then we also have had physical challenges. Like and so I mean, I won't go into a lot of that, but let's now go into and tell us a little bit about, is there a highlight from your life experiences and maybe in Special Olympics? Maybe it was back at the 2014 USA Games, but is there a highlight that you can recall of some of your life experiences, either inside or outside of Special Olympics?
There's actually a little bit of both. In high school, not for a Special Olympics, so in high school, my senior year in 2005 at Crystal Lake Central, I was actually a co-captain for my track and field team, and it was nice. And then I kept watching this co-ed softball team from fall 2012 through 2014, and when I was still in Illinois, I was part of the Crystal Lake Grand Slam pieces for co-ed softball, and I was part of that team from 2015 through 2018. In my first year being on the team, we actually won the championship for our level, so it was nice, and that was outside of Special Olympics. In Special Olympics, I've been able to accomplish, as you said, USA Games, but just as importantly, I've been making a lot of new friends, and even when I've been on co-ed softball and also my high school, I made new friends, and I'm very thankful for that. And I think we can understand that the importance of achievements are not just achievements itself, but the friends you share it with. It's been a great journey.
Awesome. So let's talk to us now just briefly about how has your life experiences and Special Olympics. Well, before that, just briefly, before I ask you that question, if I remember right, I think it was around the time right before you left Illinois to go to Missouri, I believe it was. There was I think it was your local town in Crystal Lake, I think, had named, there was some sign that was named after you on the highway, or?
Yes, I actually have it if you want me to grab it, but
I mean, I guess just for the sake of time, maybe just tell us about.
Okay. Yeah, the Crystal Lake City Council and good friend Jeff Forson, who was part of the City Council at the time, was having a meeting for me, and my mom and I were in Chicago just having a Mother Sunday out, and all of a sudden I get this text from Jeff Person saying, "Did you get this?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. What's it about?" The city wants to honor your achievements from the 2016 Special Olympics Online Summer Games with the 100-meter run and running long jump. So I was in shock, and I was also happy and excited. I was like, wow, they want to do this for me. So throughout the city, they had road signs. And when I moved out of state, they let me keep one for myself. So they still had the 3 other signs, 2 by the high school I went to at Crystal Lake Central, and 1 going into Crystal Lake on 14 from Woodstock. But it's in Crystal Lake. It's like by North Shore. I think it's called North Shore Drive, or no, Lakeshore Drive in 14, something like that. So
awesome. Awesome. So tell us now briefly, how has your life experiences that you just explained and your Special Olympics experiences shaped the person that you are today?
Well, I've been able to keep going at it and not giving up at it, and I have a lot of strong supporters of friends, and I still stay connected with, including you. Yeah. And it's just like it's helped me become more outgoing and more of encouraging, giving good sportsmanship, because like at times it was like, yeah, you got to get gold, you're the greatest. No. I mean, that is great to get gold, but other people who get like silver, bronze, fourth, you gotta be like, hey, you gave it your all too. So don't stop there. Keep going.
Awesome. But we're going to go ahead right now and take a brief sponsor break. And when we come back, talk a little bit more about some of the sports that you compete in Special Olympics, as well as previewing the upcoming 2022 USA Games. Our conversation with Brent Kampert, our guest, calling in all the way from Special Olympics, Missouri, it continues after the break right here on SpecialChronicles.com.
International Podcast Day is September 30th, and you can help spread the word. You may be asking, what can I do to get involved? It's pretty simple. Head over to internationalpodcastday.com and check the suggestions. Then use hashtag International Podcast Day to join the conversation. You can reach out and connect with other podcasters, listeners, and your favorite podcast hosts. Remember September 30th, International Podcast Day, a day-long celebration of the power of podcasts.
We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. And we're back. Our guests on the Special Chronicles show this week. We're on the road to the 2022 USA Games, featuring a conversation with returning guests and our friend Brent Kampert, calling in from Special Olympics, Missouri. Let's now continue, Brent, and continue your story and tell us about briefly how you got involved in Special Olympics, Missouri, some of the sports that you compete in, and what you enjoy about your involvement in Special Olympics.
Oh, so when we moved out of state, my dad got in touch with the local Special Olympics leader, Jocelyn, and she does a lot of the Special Olympics out in the St. Louis area, and my dad talked to her about how I'm already an athlete leader, and I've done all this athlete leadership stuff, but they are having me do some of the courses, even though I've already done a lot of them in Illinois, and I did the Health Messenger one, and not just Illinois, but it was for Special Olympics North America, so they have me taking some courses for athlete leadership here, and also I was involved with basketball before COVID hit the pandemic hard, and then after over a year, there was an opportunity to go to USA Games during 2020. Like, they were giving out the information, like, if you want to go to USA Games. So, like, my dad helped fill out the information because he's my track coach and track and field coach. I mean,
yeah.
And so in 2021, this year, they opened up outdoor sports for Special Olympics Missouri with certain conditions and restrictions. You can only stand so far apart in a event, they allow you not to wear a mask, but they also have this COVID waiver, so to make sure about everything. The spring games were canceled, but we went to summer games, and I ended up getting gold in the 100 and the 4x100 relay, and I got silver in the running long jump and first time trying it, the javelin. But even though I did those sports, there's possibility that Special Olympics Missouri has it where they want to see where you're best at. So I may be doing javelin, I don't know, or I might be doing the shot put, which I struggled with at first, but I improved at it. But I think for sure I'm going for the 100. And I don't know about the relay, but I know I'm pretty sure the 100 is, because that's what I was going for. So
awesome. So let's now continue, and we don't have a lot of time on this episode today, but tell us briefly about so as we preview the upcoming 2022 USA Games for Special Olympics happening in Orlando in June 2022. What sport you're going to be competing in, and tell us a little bit about your excitement of getting selected to compete at the upcoming 2022 USA Games. So this will be your second USA Games.
I was very excited because you gotta take opportunity when you have the chance, and I'm trying to stay involved in Special Olympics as long as I can. My back injury from 2017 really put a setback on how far I can jump the long jump. So I'm just looking to do my best, and I am looking forward to Orlando. I've been there once before in 2008. My sister got married in Daytona Beach that year, but when they went on their honeymoon, my parents and I were staying in Orlando for a bit, but didn't get to see much of it. So hoping this time to be able to do that. And
awesome.
It's going to be really exciting to see the city again.
Awesome. So tell us, as people or podcast listeners, go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter Live. I think that's where we'll also be on live. You can see the background behind me, but you see the slogan hashtag Shine as One. So what does the Shine as One phrase mean to you, and as well as what advice do you have for our fellow Special Olympics athletes to compete like myself, hopefully someday at the USA Games? So what does Shine as One mean to you, and any advice that you have?
So shine as one, I think, is we all shine brightly. So it's not just one person; it's all of us. We all shine brightly. So like, I think they are also trying to include people with disabilities because it's like saying you don't see a disability when those people with special needs are shining as one. So they're showing they can do things. So it's not like you see a disability, you just see the achievement of that person. And I think it's great. And to be able to go to the USA Games, I think you gotta keep working hard. Don't stop now, even if you don't get selected.
Awesome.
Keep working hard, keep going at what you do best at. For me, it's track and field, but others might have a different sport or a different outlet. You gotta keep working hard, gotta keep trying.
Awesome.
Some of this stuff is hard, I know, but you just gotta keep going.
Awesome. So we're going to go to take a short break. When we come back, we'll get into Brent's advice and a little bit about athlete leadership programs and final thoughts at the end. So all that's coming up. A conversation with Brent leading up to the 2022 USA Games in Orlando. Conversation with Brent continues after the break on SpecialChronicles.com. And hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to hear a message from our partner. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And now we return to our conversation. This episode continues right now. And I always forget that it cuts off, but our conversation with Brent leading up to the 2022 USA Games continues. Brent is calling in from Special Olympics, Missouri. So, Brent, tell us briefly about what being part of the athlete leadership programs and being an athlete leader means to you. What does?
Well, you got if you got show. Like all the athletes, whether they are leaders or not, like be like we're here together. We're trying to spread the word about people with disabilities, not just through Special Olympics, but of how we get through life. And Special Olympics is actually a big part of the people with disabilities. I know there's many organizations aside from that, but Special Olympics is one of the largest. And in doing athlete leadership, they have us do speeches for like places like Rotary clubs and schools and education facilities, and also like you're doing these fundraisers. And I was part of the 2021 torch run of Special Olympics St. Louis in the St. Charles area to do the torch, and as part of the Summer Games, and they're doing it live because they're trying to show support for a great cause and a great organization. It's really important that people get to know about Special Olympics because it's showing that people with disabilities, no matter what kind of disability, are connecting together and becoming friends with staff, volunteers, athletes, families. It's right there. It's strong because we're all together.
Awesome. Well, if you want to learn more about Special Olympics Missouri, SOMO.org is where you can go to learn more and get involved in Special Olympics Missouri. And if you are not in Missouri, if you're in Illinois like myself, or anywhere across the U.S. or across the globe, SpecialOlympics.org is where you can go to learn more, get involved in your local chapter. And Brent, if people want to connect with you, they can go to @Brent.Kampert on Facebook and connect with you, right?
Yes, our I got a lot of bronze, but I'll make sure I can add.
So if any of you guys want to connect with Brent on Facebook, just go on the Facebook and search for @Brent.Kampert.
I also have a like page. It's www.facebook.com/BK S lowercase PECIAL uppercase O lowercase LYPICS capital H lowercase EALTH capital J lowercase OURNEY for my like page. It's my help journey.
Awesome. So we have a lot of time left, and I don't have this panel set up yet, but I mean, I deleted this panel, but you can learn more about and get involved in the 2022 USA Games at 2022 Special Olympics USAGames.org. That's 2022 Special Olympics USAGames.org. The link will be in the show notes in the description below. And SpecialChronicles.com is where you can go to for links to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of our podcasts, newsletter. And I always conclude these conversations with, and I'll do the same with you.
We're not just
with a little sneak peek with a question on the that I always conclude these conversations with, and I'll do the same with you, Brent. So let's roll that bumpo.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference. Difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
Dignity. And the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And speaking of that, as Brent, as you know, as I know, as hopefully our listeners know, inclusion and the inclusion revolution is a big part of our Special Olympics movement. So like I do with all of our conversations, I'll do the same with you and ask you, what does inclusion mean to you?
Well, it means to accept people for who they are, whether they do or do not have disabilities. And in 2020, when the NBA came back from their shutdown from the COVID, they had this thing going on with their jerseys where they put equality and all sorts of positive messages on their jerseys. So I ended up doing something with a sweatband that I wear with my sports, where I was able to customize a sweatband with include on it. So
awesome.
Everyone was really inspired by that, and they asked me, why do you have that on there? I'm like, because people with disabilities need to be respected for who they are and need to be included with people who do or do not have disabilities.
Awesome. Well, it's been a joy having you on, Brent. That's a wrap on this episode. I hope you all have learned more about Brent. I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes to Brent's previous guest on this podcast. I have to look in the archives and find out what episode that was, because I forgot what episode. But we'll find it. Put a link in the show notes. And if you guys you can email us feedback@specialchronicles.com. If you want to write a review for this podcast, of course you can do it on Apple Podcasts, but you can go to specialchronicles.com/feedback. specialchronicles.com/feedback to write a review about this podcast or any of the other shows on the Special Chronicles Network. It's been awesome having you on, Brent, and folks, you guys stay tuned next week. Next month, October 2021, we have all new episodes of our Unified Ad Work podcast series that's co-produced with United Airlines. It's taken 2 months to produce that, but that will be premiering weekly in October. So stay tuned for that and much more exciting content right here on the Special Chronicles show. And until next time, we'll see you next week right here on the Special Chronicles show, specialchronicles.com. Bye.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.